Chapter 18. Lu Yuan walked to the first piece of wool, and the live studio switched the camera to the surface of the rough stone in time. This piece of wool is an ordinary yellow sand leather shell, which is not easy to identify, but if you look closely, there are several gray-white spots scattered on its surface, and most of the spots are distributed on one side, which is very uneven. Look at its leather shell. With his detailed explanation, Bai Jing has a deeper understanding of this piece of wool. He is worthy of being a senior stone gambler. There are many details that he has not noticed. However, the audience in the live broadcast room was not very interested in these boring explanations. Fortunately, at the same time as the explanation, there will be an experienced calcite master synchronizing the calculus. At this time, everyone was connected to the virtual port, and they were able to stand by and watch the calcification process in person. This excitement caused a surge in traffic, and the number of people in the live broadcast room successfully exceeded the 80 million mark. The first piece of wool was cut 3 times in different directions along the leather shell, and it was no surprise that it was a white stone, and everyone could not help sighing softly. The second piece of wool cut a knife along the ringworm at the bottom, and when the second knife fell, it turned green. However, when everyone was excited, the stone gambler cut 2 more knives and found that it was green on the skin, which attracted sorrow to countless people. The third piece of wool. In more than an hour, Master Xiesher untied a total of 11 pieces of wool. Only one of these wools had jadeite, but there were large cracks in the jade meat, which could not be used at all, and everyone's mood also fell. At this time, the calcite master moved the white salt sand skin wool material numbered 12 to the calcite machine. The hearts of the candidates were immediately suspended. More than half of them chose this piece of wool, and they all prayed that there would be no problems. This was related to whether they could pass the assessment. Ning Yuxuan first saw this piece of white salt sandskin wool during the exam, and without hesitation, filled in the number 12 into the answer in the last column. Now her mood is still very relaxed. Just based on the performance of this piece of wool, the jade inside will never be bad. A smile appeared on Lu Yuan's handsome face, and he gently rubbed the surface of the wool with his hands, introducing, "This piece of white salt sandskin has a rough surface and a strong sense of sand removal. It is a typical wool material from the first field of the sauté area, and it is the best in white sandskin. The surface of the skin is compact and delicate, indicating that the seed is old. Looking at its surface, a strip of green pine flowers is symmetrically distributed, which is a very good material. The probability of ice seeds is very high, and it is even possible to produce glass seeds." After Lu Yuan explained it in detail, Master Xiesher looked back and forth for a long time very cautiously, and then began to wipe the stone along the direction of Songhua, and soon wiped out the fog. The fog is coming out so soon. It's still white fog. In an instant, everyone's enthusiasm was ignited. The popularity of the live broadcast room soared to the extreme, and the number of people rose. The candidates sitting in front of the stage were equally excited. It was foggy, and judging from the water-sprinkled section, the jadeite inside was not bad. The bet has definitely risen, and it has risen sharply. Seeing the white fog, Master Xiesher's operation was more meticulous, and he wiped the stone little by little along the fog surface and quickly wiped out a window the size of a palm. Drenched in water, the incision is as clear as ice, with a faint cool feeling. It's ice. The calcite master carefully observed the outline of the incision and the direction of the pine flowers at the bottom, and cut a knife near 1/3 of the bottom. As expected of an experienced master, this knife is just right, just cut out the size of jade. As the saying goes, swipe up is not up, but cut up is up. After the knife was dropped, the outline of this jadeite was almost fully revealed, which was a final touch. In the end, the 3.4 kilograms of ice-floating jadeite was unraveled from the wool of this white salt sandskin. The crystal-clear jade is like a flowing ice spring, with a little green color in it, like clouds floating in it. The texture is delicate and the watercolor is full. The live broadcast room was immediately swiped by countless gifts, and people walked up to enjoy it excitedly. They felt the clear and cool touch of ice jade through holographic technology, and their hearts were full of love. This is the first time I have seen the birth of ice jadeite with my own eyes. It is hard to believe that it was solved in a stone. It is really beautiful. The ice-type floating jadeite that weighs 3.4 kilograms has definitely risen sharply. Is the guild for sale? I paid 4 million stars to buy this jadeite. I gave 4.5 million. I gave out 5 million star coins, and no one should be higher than me. A group of people took the opportunity to shout the price, but they were quickly swept away by other barrages. Brothers and sisters, hurry up and put big up on the public screen for me. For a time, the live broadcast room was overwhelmed by the big rise on the screen. The candidates who chose the number 12 breathed a sigh of relief and could not wait to shout to the sky. They got it right. With this 5-point advantage, it is enough to open up a lot of rankings. At this time, the president of the Stone Gambling Guild, who had been watching, smiled and motioned for the camera to cut to him. The light screen quickly switched to the chairman's smiling face. The people who were still watching the ice seed floating flower jade at close range were bounced out of the virtual space. When they were at a loss, they heard the voice of the president of the Stone Gambling Guild. This piece of wool has indeed produced ice jadeite, but it's not a bet. The barrage suddenly exploded. How could this not be a bet? The ice jadeite has come out. Is it a bet to open the best glass kind? Ning Yuxuan also frowned. What does the president mean? The president of the Stone Gambling Association did not answer directly, but instead asked a question. Let's talk about it. What is a rise in gambling? Naturally, the price of jadeite bet is higher than the price of rough stone. This is basic common sense. Even people who don't gamble on stones know that many people have posted a bullet screen, and this sentence has been scrolling on the screen. The president stroked his beard and said with a smile, "That's right, Lu Yuan. You listed all the prices for the 55 rough stones purchased this time." Ning Yuxuan's face turned pale, and she suddenly had a bad premonition. Lu Yuan quickly projected the price of wool material on the light screen. People in the live broadcast room watched one by one, and when they saw the price of wool material number 12, they all lost their voices. It actually cost 6 million stars? Ning Yuxuan muttered to herself, her expression erratic. She has been in contact with gambling stones since she was a child, and she naturally knew that the piece of ice floating jadeite she solved was not big, and it was not bad to be able to auction 5 million star coins, but it was still far from the price of the original stone. Gambled down. This cognition appeared in Ning Yuxuan's mind very clearly. Looking at this piece of wool now, she didn't know how to face it with her emotions. How could the white salt sand skin that performed so well be less than 5 million stars? Taking a step back, the examination questions of the assessment will not be so simple. I blame myself for being too conceited. I made a judgment the moment I saw this piece of wool. I never thought that there would be other possibilities. The top 10 this time are doomed to miss me. Ning Yuxuan was annoyed when suddenly, Bai Jing's figure flashed in front of her eyes. If it was him, he wouldn't make such a mistake. After spending most of the day, all 55 pieces of wool material were finally solved, and 3 pieces of jadeite were issued, number 12, 33, and 41 respectively. Number 12 white salt sand skin wool is the most unfortunate. Although the ice-type floating flower jadeite was produced, it did not increase the bet. Number 33 Haiwasha wool has a 1.7 kilograms glutinous being green jadeite. The auction price is 600,000 star coins, far exceeding the rough stone price of 30,000 star coins, which is a veritable surge. The wool of number 41 was mediocre, with no pine flowers or python belts on the surface, but a 6.9 kilogram cyanin jadeite was unearthed. The auction price was 60,000 star coins, which was nearly 10 times the price of the original stone. The audience in the live broadcast room was fortunate enough to witness a wonderful calcite live broadcast. After smashing a wave of gifts, they left with satisfaction. And nearly 90% of the candidates looked gloomy after the results of the calcification were announced, and they were destined to miss the top 100 with their results and could only fight again next year. Bai Jing also benefited a lot from today's live broadcast. He thought that he had observed carefully enough and had a good grasp of the basic knowledge of the field, but after the explanation of the 6th-level stone gambler Lu Yuan, he found that he still had a lot to improve. The 6 pieces of wool that Bai Jing could not identify in the examination room were not difficult in Lu Yuan's hands. Lu originally washed the wool material several times with the help of the clean water next to it, until all the sediment on the leather shell was washed away, revealing the original and clearest skin of the rough stone. In this way, there is no trace of any tiny traces to hide. If you observe carefully, you can see the fine lines formed by the wool material with the movement of the planet's crust. Even if there were only a few light-colored marks the size of sand grains on the wool, Lu Yuan could find them all, and with the only evidence, he could accurately determine the location of the wool. Among them, there was a piece of yellow sand skin that could not find any clues from the surface, so he picked up and scraped the minerals and ringworm on the surface of the skin with a knife. It can also be concluded that Bai Jing is amazed. The master is worthy of being a master. When Bai Jing saw these pieces of wool, he only felt that there was no way to go, and even had the idea that no one could identify it. He never thought that there were so many ways to identify the field, and this live broadcast taught him a good lesson. Everything in the world has traces to follow. If you can't find it everywhere, it's not that there are no traces, but the observation is not meticulous enough, and the effort is not enough. The end of this live broadcast represents the announcement of the answers to the practice assessment. Bai Jing calculated his score in his heart. 2 of the 6 pieces of wool were answered correctly by luck, and 2 points were awarded and 4 points were deducted. He is confident in theoretical knowledge, and the deduction will never exceed 2 points, so the total score should be above 94 points. I hope to get the top 10 in this assessment. Bai Jing thought about it this way, and wrote down today's experience and knowledge in his notebook little by little. In just over a month, he has used up 5 notebooks. This level of effort is unmatched. Likewise, his growth rate is also unmatched. In the early morning 2 days later, the official website of the Stone Gambling Association released the list of candidates for the Gambling Stone Apprenticeship Assessment. The candidates ranked in the top 100. When seeing this list, everyone was shocked, and Xingwang was almost paralyzed.